Hello everybody, welcome to today's video. It is our second ever Minecraft video. Today's video is very different from last week. Last week was like a harvest festival maze witch town. It was very interesting. But today's video is a very different concept. It comes from the idea of a chinampa. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's also called the floating garden, which was a small stationary artificial island built on freshwater lake for agricultural purposes. It was in the Valley of Mexico. It was like a pre-colonial way of gardening on top of shallow freshwater lakes. So when I was looking around this world and I found a shallow lake, I thought this would be a perfect place to build a floating garden. So we didn't build an exact replica of a chinampa, but we took that idea and created an entire floating village. So if you look from above, the entire thing is it's four gardens and then four smaller rows of sugarcane. And so like the gardens surround the village, which is in the center. And so I used this idea of a chinampa to create our village. And so the one thing it does have in common with last week's video is that it's also very agriculture based. So like pretty much everyone in the village is a farmer. And that's going to be a theme throughout our videos, is that we're creating tiny pockets of villages where people live off the land. So on one side of the island we have carrots, beetroots, and on the other side of the island we have potatoes and wheat. Looking from above, you can see the walkways winding through the village and coming out to the fields on lily pads. These lily pads are their walkways so they get to work and stuff, so that they can travel around on boat, but also they mainly just walk on the pathways they've created. And so you see there's lots of gardens and trees in the village, and so these are trees that they harvest, and then the gardens are just for decorations. And they also have shrubs. And so you can see they're growing a whole bunch of different flowers and trees throughout the main part of the village where they live in. And then the outside surrounding farms are just crops. Actual chinampas, I was doing reading for them, and actual chinampas different websites had different amounts, but they were always a 1:10 ratio, so they were either 10 feet by 100 feet or 20 feet by 200 feet. They were always those sort of dimensions, and I didn't make them that long, but it has that same long, narrow look to it. They were also held up by trees on all four corners to help support the weight of the chinampas on top of the lake. And so I used that as inspiration for the trees in the main part of the village. And so all the trees growing throughout the village are oak trees, and all of the houses and the steps lining each garden are made out of oak wood. Much like ancient pre-colonial Mesoamerican chinampas, this village is set up on the concept of this is a shallow freshwater lake. Everything in the town operates the way that it does because they live on a freshwater lake. And so the houses are made out of wood that grows on the islands. The floor of each house is made out of glazed terracotta, which comes from the river bed. The flower pots that you see all over town are made from the clay as well. And so the wood and the clay and the ground that they got from the bed of the river is what they used to build this town in the first place. One design feature that carries throughout all of the buildings, not only the oak wood, which comes from the trees that they grow on the islands, but also they have humongous windows in each of the houses. And my idea for this is that, as well as the clay, there's also sand on the riverbed that they harvested, and so they had plenty of sand to make glass, and so they all their houses have these huge windows and huge bookcases filled with paper that they got from the sugarcane, from their sugarcane fields, as well as sugarcane that grows naturally around the area. Beside the biggest house, which is where the mayor lives with his lectern where he writes books, beside that house is a house with 2 fishermen who live there, and so the idea is that the fishermen, really the only meat they eat is the fish that they catch in their lake, and so because they live on this freshwater lake, they rely on this freshwater lake so much. The fishermen basically have a hatchery in this lake, and so the people in this town rely so heavily on the lake, but because of the lake, they are able to be self-sufficient, completely self-sufficient, because the lake, they just happen to live in an area with a shallow freshwater lake that allows them to have such a unique living style and be completely reliant on this lake. And so I guess that's it. Hold on. My endings are always like, okay, goodbye. Honestly, I wish there was like a sugarcane job, because then I could have like a person on the sugarcane as well as each of the other 4 farms that they cultivate. Because it's sort of like they have a person who deals with the paper that comes from the sugarcane, but they don't have like an actual sugarcane harvester, and that's strange. Anyway, that's all I wanted to share about this town. Thank you for watching. Next week we won't have another Minecraft video. I'm going to do another in my my Harvest Moon villagers in The Sims 4. So I'm going to do Gil from Tree of Tranquility and Animal Parade. So he's going to be next week, and then I'm going to build his house the week after that. But we will come back with more harvest towns in Minecraft at a later date. Thank you for watching, everybody, and have a great day.
Hmm.